Okay, so in this video we're going to have a look at injective, surjective and bijective functions and how we test to determine if we have any or all three of them. So just a quick summary. So our test is the horizontal line test. So as the name suggests, we just draw a horizontal line, and how the graph interacts with it will determine what type of function we're dealing with. So if we have an injective function, then our HLT will cross exactly once. If we're dealing with the surjective function, our HLT crosses at least once. So these two are important, the difference between them, and also another condition, our codomain and range must be identical. And then if we have a bijective function, it will have pass our injective and surjective tests. Okay, so if we look here at part 1, we've been asked if it's injective only, surjective only, bijective, or none of the above. So our first thing to do is our horizontal line test. So I'm going to draw my horizontal line, and we'll see, because it's a linear function, wherever I draw my horizontal line, it'll only ever intersect with it once. Okay, then our condition for, so we'll just tick them off as we go. We know it's injective. For it to be surjective, it must cross at least once. That's fine, we've satisfied that. And the codomain must equal the range. So they've told us here that our codomain is OR. And then for our range, we're going to check all along the y-axis. So if I see here, my function is going to continue upwards and continue downwards. So it'll continue upwards to plus infinity and continue downwards to minus infinity. So that tells me that our codomain and range are the same thing. There's our set of reals. So we've passed our test for surjectivity. So then it means, and here's your statement, so F maps OR to OR is a bijective function. And that's part 1 answered. Part 2 now, I'm going to check. So first up is to check if it's injective. I'm going to run a horizontal line test. Straight away we see here we fail because it's going to cross twice. So it'll fail. Now I need to check for surjectivity. And that means it'll cross at least once. And then my codomain must equal my range. There's my codomain. We check my range and we see here it doesn't cross below 0 on the y-axis. So our range is not equal to our codomain. So we are not dealing with the surjective function. Sorry, I'll put that in red. So we failed injectivity, failed our test for surjectivity, so we cannot have a bijective function. So then we're going to say our function H maps OR to OR is none of the above. Okay, part 3 now. Test for injectivity first. It's always the simplest test. Okay, so we run a horizontal line test. Straight away we see we cross twice. We can only have a maximum of 1, so it's not injective. Now we test for surjectivity. So we know it'll pass on the horizontal line test. That's fine. Next thing we're checking if our codomain and range are equal. So they're telling us it'll run from 0 to infinity, potentially, and we check our actual outputs on the y-axis, and we see on the y-axis it runs from 0 up to plus infinity. So our function here keeps going to plus infinity. And then here at the bottom is 0 on the y-axis. So we're good there on surjectivity. Now we failed injectivity but passed surjectivity. So we cannot have a bijective function. So for this one, our function g maps r to 0, infinity is surjective only. Okay, and our last one, part 4. Again, we start off for injectivity. Our horizontal line test. We'll run it a few times here. The shape's a little bit different. Okay, crosses at most once, so we pass. Now we'll check for surjectivity. Change that there to surjective. So in part 4 now we'll check for surjectivity. So it crosses at least once on our horizontal line test. We're good there. And now I need to check if my codomain is equal to my range. So we have a look here. They tell me my codomain possible outputs is the set of reals, so minus infinity to plus infinity. It's another way of thinking about that. And if we look here, we only go from 1 up to 3 for our actual outputs. So we run into an issue there, so it's not going to be surjective. So our last one for part 4, again, we've passed injectivity but failed surjectivity, so it cannot be bijective. So our statement at the end, we're going to say our function p maps 0 pi to the set of reals is going to be injective only. And that's parts 1 to 4 answered.